Hi and welcome back. Today we're going to go into Azure B2C. So this is a technology where you can use the power of Azure AD to log into your application, to allow users to log into your application, and to connect to third-party social media type IDs. So this will be things like Facebook ID, things like Google ID. In the demo, we're going to be using the Microsoft Live ID. Used to be MSN ID, used to be, Hotmail, all of those kinds of things. I'm doing that just because I've got one. It's easy for me to run through. The technique is exactly the same though. Generally, you'll have to register with a third party as a developer to get an API key to their infrastructure for authentication. But once you've got that, you then just put that ID into the B2C requests, and then you can use their infrastructure. So if somebody has a Facebook ID, they would just click the Facebook button, type in their Facebook details, or it would take them through to the Facebook page to just say, yes, I agree to this. And then they're authenticated against your app. The benefit of this is you don't have to create a database to store user IDs. You don't have to collect all of that data. It allows the user more easily to keep track of things. They don't need another password. They've already got their password. We know that Facebook, Google, all of these ones that are supported out of the box are secure, and the way that they work is really well supported. So you've got no worries about being compromised or any of that kind of stuff. You can then literally just use within the B2C tenant, it will give your user a unique ID in the form of a GUID. You can then link everything else in your app to that GUID so that you've collected the information around that user. In the case of the fashion app, this is literally just swipe scores. So as I swipe right to say that I like a garment, it's just recording that I've done that in the app against my user ID. And that's the purpose of this. But for you guys watching my demos, this is such a powerful thing that you can use this in absolutely every demo app that you create. You'll see here that we're just using a static web app. That means that if you can write something with HTML, with JavaScript, with CSS, or any of the other web technologies that you would like to use, then you can add that authentication mechanism in there and just really quickly knock out a demo to show people something that you want to do or want to create. In the enterprise setting, this means if you have data out there in the organization that you want to collect and you just want to knock together a quick app, you don't have to worry about putting together all of those things. You can just allow Azure AD authentication is actually one of the options in here. So you can use this same technique to just authenticate against your Azure AD. And that means then that you can collect that information. And if you can collect that information from an analytics point of view, that means that you've got more data to base your analytics on. So with that, we'll dive into the demo. This is going to be a fairly short demo, and we're going to put some stuff in place just to test the functionality of the B2C. So don't expect the outcome of today's demo to be exciting. It's just going to be, you hit a index.html or hello world type page, you go to a different page, it will then ask you to authenticate, you authenticate, and then you see that page. That's the end of the demo. So although it's fairly simple, do remember this is a very powerful thing for you to be using in your apps. So with that, we'll get started, and thanks for watching. So to start here, go back into your resource group, and then we're going to search the marketplace for Azure Active Directory B2C. And this is for business to consumer type scenarios where you want people to use their own IDs. So we'll just click create there. This is going to create a separate Azure tenant effectively. So we're creating a new one there. And we're going to give it an organization name and a domain name. This is separate from your Azure AD or Entra ID as it's now known. So this is where we're going to store information about your customer or end user IDs, but the IDs are not necessarily stored in here. One of the options is to have them stored in here for them to create local accounts, but they can also link their Microsoft ID, their Google ID, or Facebook ID, or whatever. So we click create tenant. This takes quite a while, so I sped the video up considerably there. And when you click this button, it actually opens a new window, but it also takes you to that other tenant. So importantly, when you're working on this, if you click on Azure B2C in your own tenant, you won't see any of this stuff. You actually have to switch tenants to get here. This has automatically opened us up into Azure AD B2C. And if you see now on the screen, I'm clicking to switch directories. You can see I'm in my fashion demo org. I could change back to my Dave Does Demos org, which would take me back to my normal stuff where the web app is and stuff like that. So next we're going to create identity provider links. You can see the list there. That's not a full list, and you can do custom ones if you wanted to. But these are the common ones that are already in there. So we can log in with the Microsoft account. Where I've just typed Microsoft personal account, that's the text that comes up on your web page, so people need to know what that means. I then copy the URL. That's kind of the callback URL that this app is going to use to let the AD infrastructure call it back with the ID token. So here we're back in your normal tenant again, and we're going to register an application under app registrations. Just give it a name for the app. You probably want to refer to the B2C tenant here somehow, or just use the same name, whatever works in your organization. So I've also chosen Microsoft personal accounts only. I don't want to be able to use the corporate AD stuff. Choose web, and I've pasted in that same URL that was just given to me in the other screen, because that is the kind of callback URL, and it's all just prepared for you. So we click register, and then from here we're going to copy the client ID and go back into the B2C tenant and paste the client ID. And then we're going to come back in and add a certificate or secret. Click new client secret and just give it a description. This isn't really used anywhere. I don't even know why it's in there. But you then choose an expiry. Remember that you do have to update this every now and then for security reasons. Click create, and then we'll copy the value of this, not the ID. And then we'll just paste that in here. So this is so that the B2C tenant can call out to the AD to interact with the other ID infrastructure. When you're using one of the other providers, those boxes would be slightly different based on the requirements of that platform. So back in the app registration, just go to authentication and tick those two boxes. That passes some information back in the token to be used later. So next we're going to create a user flow. You've got to create user flows for various things here. Sign up and sign in is the most common one, and it does what it says on the tin. So version is the recommended one, and click create. Here we're going to call it SUSI, sign up, sign in. And we're going to tick email sign up to allow people to create a local account with an email and Microsoft personal account. And it's got two-factor authentication with email by default. We're just going to leave it at that because it's simple. And then we're going to come in here to return claims and add email addresses. This is referenced in the static web app config that we'll look at later. And then we click create, and that's created the user flow for us. And this is the interface that people will see when they're trying to log in, that we'll see later. Next, we're going to register the actual application. So this is the website. This is going to be the ID that we'll use to get the website itself to log in. So here we'll give it a name. Again, this is just a descriptive name for you to know what's going on. And here we're going to choose accounts in any identity provider. We're going to choose web. And then for the redirect URI here, this is going to be your actual website. So we'll go back into our normal tenant, and we will go and find the application that we set up in the previous video. And then within here, you can see the URL. We're going to copy that and come back in and just paste it in here. But then we're going to add some stuff on the end of it, which will be /.auth/ login /AAD B2C and /callback. You can also get to .auth/logout. So if you want to put a link on the website, you can just link to that, and it lets people log out of the system. And so now that's created, we're going to go through the same thing again with client ID and secret. So we'll copy that, but this time we're copying it and pasting it into environment variables in the app itself. So under environment variables in your app, here we're going to type in AAD B2C _provider _client _ID. And we'll see this later in the staticwebapp.config.json file. Mine is auto-completing because I've typed it 1,000 times prepping for this video for you guys. But it won't auto-complete normally. You'll have to either copy it from the documentation that I've written or just type it out. So again, we're going to create a client secret in exactly the same way as we did before. Again, it does have an expiry. You will have to deal with that. So hit add, then we're going to copy the value again, not the secret ID, and we're going to go back in and put in another environment variable. This is to avoid hard coding it into the code, which would obviously be insecure. So AAD B2C _provider client secret, and paste that in. That's written in the docs, which is linked in the description of the video, so don't worry if you didn't quite catch that. You could go back and pause it or just go and look at the docs. So again, we're going to authentication and ticking those two token boxes. Again, this is to pass some stuff through into the app itself. And then hit save. And interestingly, you can also go to .auth/me on those URLs and get a bunch of information about the logged in user. And it just gives you an API endpoint that will allow you to go and get their name or their email address or whatever. So it's really quite convenient from within the app, and we will use that in the code to find people's usernames and stuff. So here I've just gone into the documentation on my GitHub and copied the config file. It's quite a lot. I didn't want to type it out, and I doubt you're going to either, so just go there and copy it. So we create a new file called staticwebapp.config.json. This is just the standard part of static web apps on Azure. And it goes back to the same sort of config you'd have had on IIS or Apache or whatever. So here we've got roots, and we're saying /page1.html needs to be authenticated. And you can just add to that. There's also a bunch of filters that you can put there, star.html or whatever, to make all HTML logged in. Now what we're going to do is go back in and get the AAD B2C tenant ID, which I'm copying there on the screen, and we're just going to paste that into your B2C tenant and replace that. And there's two places that you've got to replace this, so don't just do one. I've done that on at least 2 versions of this video and had to redo it. So this B2C _1 Susie is the name we chose when we created the SUSI. If you go back and look, you'll see that the that first part is hard coded, so that's the default. And here we're just going to change that first index landing page and put in a link to page1.html. Obviously this doesn't exist yet, but this is taking us to an authenticated web page to trigger the authentication mechanism. Excuse the typing errors. I could edit them out, but it feels like a lot. So then we're going to create a page1.html. Exactly the same stuff that we did before, so I'm just pasting that in. I copied it from the index, and I'm going to change the title and the text just so that we know that we've logged in and we're now looking at another page. And we'll save that. And then we're going to commit that into the repo. And what you won't see is that I did not save the config.json there. So we're going to have a bit of a slash cut here where I went back and fixed it. But had I saved it, it would have worked. So Then we go into GitHub Actions. We're just going to watch this play through. Again, I've sped this up quite extensively to save you the bother. You can see there is 51 seconds on the screen, and I made it 3 seconds for you guys. So now we refresh the page, we can see the new version, hit go to page 1, and it will take us to this that you'll be familiar with from other websites. You can log in with a local ID and sign in, or you can sign up, or you can just hit Microsoft Personal Account, and that's the label that we typed in earlier. When I followed the documentation, it was like MSID or something in the docs, and I typed that, and every user was confused as to what MSID was. So change that to something descriptive. Now when we click to get to page 1, we get through to the page. So hopefully you've enjoyed that, and you can see how powerful this is going to be in your other demos or your applications, or just in your job generally. This will allow you to add that authentication mechanism very, very easily for anything that you're doing. And hopefully just the structure of this app means that you can take some of this HTML, some of the JavaScript, and just create other stuff with it. It's pretty easy to just manipulate what's there and do other things, collect data, or show users things. So with that, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this and you want to see more, then hit like and subscribe. It's free to subscribe. It just means that you get to see in your feed all of the stuff that we release here on the channel, and just shows me that you've enjoyed what you're watching. So if you hit the like button, I know that you like this kind of content. So the videos that get more likes, I will try to create more stuff for you guys. So thanks very much. I'll see you next time.